with our call to order and the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everyone. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move to 2 for roll call, please.
Chairperson Lujan?
Here.
Vice Chair Potter?
Here.
Vice Chair Rubalcava? Did I say that
Here.
right?
Rubalcava, correct, here.
Vice Chair, Commissioner Spencer?
Here.
And Commissioner Wendell?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move forward to 3 ceremonial matters. There are none. So we're going to go ahead and move forward to the adoption of the agenda. And can I get a first for the adoption of the agenda?
I motion to adopt the agenda.
I second. I second.
Thank you.
And vote.
And a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the vote. And we're going to go ahead and move forward to number 5, announcements and presentations to the public. We have none, so we're going to go ahead and move forward to number 6, which is public comment. And I'm going to go ahead and read this for our audience members today. For public comment, it is for anything that is not already on the agenda. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the Recreation Commission on any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. The Commissioner Chair reserves the right to limit the speaker's time to 3 minutes, of which we will be doing today. You are not allowed to make personal attacks on individuals or make comments which are slanderous or which may invade an individual's personal privacy. That being said, is there any member of the public that would like to come forward for public comment today? Of course, go ahead and come forward to the podium, please.
I don't have to push anything on this, do I? It is green. Okay.
Perfect. And if you could state your name as well for the
Sorry.
record.
My name is Christy Romney. I am from Hangtown Little League. I'm the president for the board there. We are coming to you guys today to talk to you a little bit about a project they're wanting to do with Rotary Park. As you guys know, we've used Rotary Park for, I don't even know, probably 30 or 40 years now, which we are super appreciative of. But in part of our process, it is our job to ensure the field stays, as part of our contract, stays safe and playable and competitive. And right now, it is our turn to invest back into that field. And so we kind of wanted to let you know what our plan was and to hopefully have the city of Placerville behind us on this, because it's everybody's park, not just ours. So the purpose of our project is to remove the existing infield grass. Please don't panic. We're not going to take it away forever. We would like to replace the dirt in infield, because right now, if you've ever been there in the last couple months, it kind of looks like dirt and weeds. We want to remove the current soil, mix with existing dirt in the infield, reshape and compact. We would like to replace all the bases, plates, and mounds to make it playable and safe for our teams. We then would like to work with community members that we have spoken to replace the sod, replace home plate, repair the stakes, fix the irrigation, and put in a new mound. I know this might sound expensive, but promise we have done our work and hope to have it all covered. As of right now, our materials, which I gave, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, Mr. Dennis, and I have a copy for you guys you can look at later when you would like. Materials, equipment, and labor would cost us $18,300. We have received generous donations from Mr. Vicini, Thompson's Toyota, Rotary Club, Hangtown Little League, and Miguel Garcia. This will cost no additional cost to the city of Placerville. Hangtown Little League and these businesses would like to make this possible. I know the concern may be for ongoing maintenance for the city, which we hope will be none because it is still watering the weeds that it currently is doing, so we don't plan to change that at all, except for actually use the water to water grass. We have talked with the city about helping to keep this lawn safe and growing at a proper length and safety for our teams and the community by helping to pay for extra landscaping provided by Hangtown Little League, which will help with infield mowing, leaf blowing, helping with the blackberry bushes that like to encroach the fence, and keeping help with checking the irrigation. Costs for this will come from Hangtown, as we have already reached out to a landscaping company who would come out once a week to help with these costs and help the city keep our parks looking great. Hangtown Little League would like to talk about eventually looking at ways to work with our community to limit the amount of dog poop that goes on our fields, or see if there's a way that we can lock it up when we have game days to make sure there's no dog poop for our kids to fall on top of. This project timeline, we worked with our vendors and our construction officers. We project that it will take us 1 to 2 weeks. Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Go and wrap up
Okay,
your
I
last
was like,
thought
I'm
there.
trying to hurry.
No worries.
Nerves got the best of me. They talked to us and they said once the first Vicini gets in there, it would take a week for him to be done, and the Miguel Garcia, along with Thompson's Toyotas, would help us finish it with the following week of placing sod. It would need to stay fenced off for a couple of weeks to make sure the sod can seed and not get disrupted. That would be the only impact we could potentially see for the neighboring community, was that we would just need to keep it from kids or dogs or people playing on it. Yes, that's it.
Thank you very much.
Can I give you this to look at later? I know you're not supposed to talk to me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes. No worries. Thank you for the copy. Thank you. And then I believe that Dennis does have your information, so we could look at getting a meeting scheduled to move forward with some of those great ideas and plans. Definitely, we'll make sure he has your information. Thank you.
Later in
Is-
the agenda, Madam Chair, there will be an opportunity for future agenda items if
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you.
commissioners would like to vote and make that a part of the next meeting.
Thank you. And is there another member of the public that would like to speak on anything not on the agenda this evening? Okay. And seeing none, we're going to go ahead and close public comment.
And no written communication as well, Madam Chair.
Okay. No written communication. Thank you. And we're going to move forward to number 7, public hearings. We have none scheduled for today. So we're going to go ahead and move forward to number 8, which is discussion action items. Let's see here, 8.1, approve recommendation to change Recreation and Park Commission meetings from Wednesday to Monday. And we have a presentation.
You could say Mr. Dennis.
Oh, Mr. Dennis, yeah.
I was trying to phonetically pan out because I know I was practicing last names too, so we'll be doing this more regularly, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You'll say my name
Mr.
enough,
Dennis.
you'll probably get sick of
It's
it.
going to be the new coin term. Okay, and so we have a draft.
Draft calendar in front of you for both
Okay.
the calendar year 25 and calendar year 26. Based on some of our operations and some of our staffing restructures, one of the recommendations that staff have today is to be a little more consistent with our long-term calendar. That way, we'll be able to be more proactive around agendizing certain items. For example, tonight, we took some information from Hangtown Little League. There are some other larger agenda items that are on the docket that are kind of pending. Everything from the renovation of Lions Park, which will include an irrigation plan and drainage, as well as future developmental impact fees and/or Quimby Act fees. And so some of those things will take really kind of that preventative planning, and we want to do it in advance. And so hopefully tonight, the recommendation of staff is to adjust the current existing schedule from meeting on Wednesday nights to Monday nights. The caveat to that is, I believe the last conversation we had, there might be some scheduling conflicts with our current commission. So ideally, what we would want to do is keep it on the same week. I believe that was the case. Since we're already meeting on the third week, as opposed to meeting on the third week for the Wednesday, we would want to basically meet on the third week, but Monday, if that makes any sense, because we've kind of been on that. Now, that is a draft calendar, so, and there are copies in the back for the public if they want to be able to kind of see what we're talking about a little bit. But that is the recommendation of staff, and if you have more questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Do you guys have any questions for the staff regarding the calendar change recommendations? Okay. And then for this action item, just confirming, we do need to offer public comment on this particular case, okay?
That is correct.
Okay, so since the commissioners do not have any questions for staff, I want to go ahead and move forward with opening this up to public comment. Is there any member of the public that would like to offer public comment on this agenda item? Please step forward to the front. Thank you.
Yeah, Ruth Michelson, Placerville Art Gallery, 352 Main. I just did a quick check on the calendar. January 20th is Martin Luther King Day. February 17th is President's Day. I don't know if the city observes those holidays, but perhaps if you're closed, if the city is closed on that day, those days, that might be a problem. And the same thing for 25 and for 26. Now, in March, you're meeting on St. Patrick's Day, so I hope you have green beer. Okay.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that would like to offer public comment on this topic? Okay, and seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment on this action item. I'm going to bring it back to the commissioners. Did you guys have any other thoughts or opinions?
Yeah, so, I mean, on these days, Martin Luther King Day, President's Day, there is something in place to move the meeting to, say, the Wednesday, right? Or would we be considering moving it to the second week in that situation?
That would be at the discretion of commission. I'll be very frank with you, past practice, we haven't been very consistent, and staff need to be better about upholding some continuity to that. So it would be to the discretion of the commission to either A, table it and then just postpone and push the agenda items to the next month, and or find another equitable day, whether it be a Wednesday. And it would be nice for staff to get some direction in regards to, do you guys want to just cancel those holidays? I think, Ruth brings up a great point in regards to the calendar. So it really is what works for best for the commission. Do you guys want to schedule, do you want to reschedule, and if so, what would be those options? And then if not, would you guys be okay postponing it? It would need to be a collective.
So I know I'm not keen on the idea of canceling, because I do like,
Straight.
yeah, I like the opportunity for the public to feel like they can have something they can rely on and that's consistent. So I would be more open to the idea if city council finalizes, and does this go to city council for final approval, just double checking?
I'm not really sure at this point. I know it is in our articles of incorporation in regards to the fact that we do meet. I'm not sure if it identifies the particular day.
Okay,
Best case scenario would be okay, but we want to get a consensus from the commission. Worst case scenario, we'll most likely put it on the November meeting docket under.
be formalized.
Yeah, and formalized under consent.
Perfect. I would be open to second Monday as opposed to the third. Canceling is not on my plan. I don't know I think everyone else feels the same.
I think it would be a good idea to put this on future agenda items so we can, think about what would be the best and come with, an informed decision, especially a proposal if we want to move it to the week before or the day after. So that way we don't have to make the decision right now if we adopt moving them to Mondays, put it on a future agenda item to actually make the decision what we would do with these holidays.
Okay. So I guess my question for staff on that situation is, if we move this to a vote next month for November, does that give you enough time to get it to council for December?
Yeah, there is only one meeting in December due to the holidays.
Okay.
But to Isaac's recommendation in regards to kind of partitioning and delineating in regards to the rescheduling versus the actual day, if we take an action on the day, we can also bring back the alternative. And that really just kind of provides us some clarity in regards to rescheduling. So, bring back the reschedule piece. What are our options if we don't meet this month? And then that way you provide direction to staff. But then identifying the day, today would be ideal, and then we can kind of move forward with that other piece. It really is however you guys want to be able to plan it.
I agree with that. I think we should vote on it for the Mondays and then come back for those 2 days, because we have 3 months left. Yeah, when we do that, when we vote on that Monday, yes or no?
So would you be comfortable agreeing to the third Monday and then
I think I would be comfortable in having a vote on moving them to Mondays and then tabling these specific meetings.
Those
to a future
dates.
agenda item to decide.
Does that work? Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
And feel good about that? And did anybody have any other thoughts, or does that kind of wrap that up for everyone? Okay, so I think we would need a motion. Do you want to,
Yeah, I motion that we approve the recommendation to move the meetings from the third Wednesday to Monday.
third Monday
Third Monday, yes.
of the month?
I second it.
Okay, and then everyone voting, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, I think we have that. Do we need to add an additional motion for that,
We'll
for
bring
those
it up under
specific
the
dates?
additional items at the agenda.
So at the end, we can put that for additional items. Okay, so I think we've got that identified. And thank you for the holiday notes on that as well from our public comment. Appreciate that. And, okay, so we're going to go ahead and move to our next action item here. Okay, and this is going to be item 8.2. Consider recommendation of special events permit process and forward recommendation to City Council for adoption and approval. And we have a staff report from Mr. Dennis.
I like Mr. Dennis better.
Mr. Dennis.
Yeah. Thank you, Recreation and Parks Commission. Before you tonight is a subject regarding consideration for recommendation to the revised existing policies and procedures for special events on city property. There are additional staff report copies located in the back and also online, including the survey that we've been working on over the last few weeks. I'm not going to bore you by reading through my report in verbatim, but I'm going to make a couple of highlights and kind of put some framework together in regards to the conversation and discussion tonight. This is an existing policy that we have been implementing over the last, I want to say, anywhere from about 8 to maybe 12 months based on previous staff. Unfortunately, due to some of the, I want to say, learning curve, there's a significant learning curve in regards to enforcement. And the nicest way for me to say it is, staff don't want to regulate situations, and people don't want to be regulated. So in all honesty, we want to come up with the most equitable and fair and safe opportunities for us to be able to provide special events downtown as well as in other areas throughout the city. So tonight's recommendation in regards to some of those revisions were presented at multiple meetings. There was one in June, there was another one in October, and we've been posting our survey online as well. Throughout these conversations, there has been a very strong proponent to highlight a lot of the economic development and direct impact to businesses on Main Street in historical downtown. I say that with the kindest heart in regards to understanding the clear delineation and purpose of why Recreation and Parks is stepping up into this leadership role. It's because we are here specifically to create communities through people, parks, and programs, and understanding the cultural heritage that our community and our city has been sustaining, even for some of our events, in up to 46 years. We want to not only allow the city to step in to support those, but we want to uphold that culture. We want to uphold it because it creates an amazing community spirit. It also enriches the lives of our residents. And I know that sounds like a politician's kind of, I'm just kind of telling you this from my soapbox, but the reality is that's why people move to specific communities. They move to a specific community because of the spirit of the neighborhoods, because of the heritage that is held within those legacies. So tonight's report in front of you is a revision to those policies to allow for us to create an opportunity where existing events that have been legacy events are helped and sustained by the city, whether it's led or co-led, however the commission so chooses, and or also identifying those other more commercial, nonprofit, or for-profit pieces. Now, just to be clear, because it is an existing policy, a lot of the infrastructure is there. What we're trying to do tonight, or what I'm trying to do tonight, is kind of hone that in a little bit so we can truly identify which organization is paying for what costs are the city going to offset, and we could be here all night talking about this barrier or this town or shutting down this street, but the reality is staff is asking in regards to 4 particular things. Number 1, take a look at the revision in regards to the policy and procedures that were outlined in the instructions. And number 2, look at those revised terms and understanding what is set forth in the special events permit application process. Item C, identify the legacy events and whether Recreation and Parks Division shall maintain oversight and coordination of the event as it pertains to providing the residents a safe and fun event that benefits residents, Placerville families, city, and local businesses, and to direct staff to implement the approved special events program applications and protocols as of calendar year 2025. This recommendation from the Recreation and Parks Commission will be presented to City Council during the City Council meeting on November 12th, so the public will have another opportunity to be able to share and provide input as well. This allows us an opportunity as the Recreation and Parks Division of the Department of Community Service, an opportunity to be a little more granular and specific and understanding with what we want to do. There are 3 components to any type of enforcement, and I share this with my staff, and this is in my 25 years of experience. Empathy, education, and support. And I'll say it again, empathy, education, and support. It is almost impossible for us to share education with someone when we're not empathetic, and it is almost impossible for us to enforce something if we haven't been empathetic and or allowed them an opportunity to be educated. We need to be understanding on where the community is, where the business development, where the businesses are. We also need to take time to educate them. And at that point, if we haven't done our due diligence in regards to do those 2 first steps about being empathetic and educating them on what needs to be done, it'll be virtually impossible for us to go ahead and enforce it. And the reality is this. We do not want to regulate it. We want it to be what's best for everybody, and no one wants to be regulated. We just need to find the best way and the safest avenue to be able to do it that's equitable, safe, and fun for everyone. With that, that's my report. If you have any questions, staff is available.
Thank you. Do any of the commissioners have questions for staff on this topic before deliberating and discussing or getting feedback from the public as well?
I like to hear public feedback.
You want to hear public feedback? Okay. Did you guys have any questions up front?
No, not at this time. I read through it. It seems pretty straightforward. I don't have any
Okay.
question at this time.
Excuse me, may I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Has the public seen this? Have you read this? Everybody that's out there has read it? Yes? Okay, thank you.
So I don't have any specific questions for staff at this time. I would like to go ahead and move forward with opening up for public comment. So now would be the time for anybody that would like to provide public comment on this particular agenda item. And we just want to remind everybody that there will be a timer to try to keep comments around 3 minutes. Thank you, and go ahead.
Hi, my name is Heidi Meyerhofer. I'm a former business owner on Main Street. I was on the Placerville Downtown Association Board of Trustees, and then I served as the Downtown Association Administrative Assistant for 2 years. I have read this, and I've watched the city struggle for several years since in the absence of the Placerville Downtown Association. And I'm not going to speak directly to the specifics of what you're proposing because I'm going to let Ruth do that. But I wanted to just give a little background. There was a time that we had amazing downtown events that served the public, and that was made possible because of the work of the Downtown Association. At that time, they had some money that had been contributed to their coffers by Walmart when they came in. Long story, I'm not going into all those details. But they had some funds. They hired their assistant to do a lot of work. The assistant, Lisa Crummett, was there for 18 years. She did it because she loved what she did. She did it for way under pay, but she loved what she did. She loved what she created. She was committed to creating this community through events. When I took the position, I took it knowing that I was going to be way underpaid, and I asked the board to figure out how we can build a sustainable model. We either have to increase revenue or we have to decrease our activity. But I carried us through a time. We weren't able to come to that, and that's how that situation ended. I'm asking the city and the Parks Rec tonight to consider, why is it that you want events? Okay, what does it provide? And I would like you to think about that, and I would like to offer what I have seen every time we've had an event since the change. There are comments about what happened to the old events. We used to love coming downtown. It was a great time to see all of our friends. We counted on this every year. It brought people up the hill. It brought visitors to the area. It created community. And I'm suggesting that that is what the people of Placerville would like to see, and that has got to come through a partnership between your event coordinators and the city. The city needs to recognize its role in creating community. And one of the reasons, well, I think one of the reasons we're having trouble finding coordinators is that they can't break even under these situations. So there's no incentive. I just want to present that to you. I know I'm not the first time you've heard that, but it's a real thing. They can't do it for nothing. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
All right, Ruth Michelson again, owner of Placerville Art Gallery. I've owned it 9 years. We have a good, successful business. And I've been very, very involved from the very beginning with the Downtown Association. We do currently have an association. It isn't as strong as the Placerville Downtown Association with. It's called Merchants on Main. We play a different role. I have a lot of problems with this document. I know Dennis worked very hard on it, and I also know he's been thrown into the fire pit, I'd say. I want to say what I said at the second events meeting. I don't know if you all were there. Some of you may have been, but what I said then was, we used to have a marriage with the city, and here was the condition of the marriage. Many of us, myself included, gave hundreds, if not thousands, of free hours in event planning. I had Golden History Day, which is when the wagon train comes through town. We worked on it all year long. It was very complex. That was our part of the marriage, free labor, which I have to say, I don't think the city really appreciates what they're getting in the deal. And the city's part of it was they paid for the closure. All those associated expenses, they've come up with these long, long lists, some of which I agree with and some of which I don't, are actual expenses. I think some of it has been inflated. But that aside, that was the marriage. Now we're going through a divorce. And now the city is saying, you all do all this free work, and you all pay $6,000 to $8,000 to close the street. Well, no can do. Simply no can do. And so it really comes down to, we as event planners, we already have great expenses to bring in bands, to bring in the toilets, the garbage, you name it, the insurance. We already are spending. And I know for Golden History Days, that came out of a lot of our personal pockets to do. Not only the hours, but the expenses, 1 minute, we had fundraisers to do what we could. And I got to say that this document, I really hope you look at seriously, because this document makes it so onerous for an event planner. Everything has been shifted over to the event planner, including you go get the barricades, you go get your security, you go get this, you go get that. It's like you aren't going to have events. And I really have a strong feeling that the city doesn't really value the events. on Main Street. Look, I know that as merchants, we bring in 6% of the sales tax for the city of Placerville. I don't think we have what they would say monetarily is a big part, because your big box stores, your car dealerships, your grocery stores, et cetera, bring in the big money. But I really like what Dennis has to say about a community. And when he said, and I'll just finish this up in my last few seconds, empathy, education, and support. Those are great words, but I have to be honest with you. In this document, I don't see it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and offer public comment on this topic?
Good evening, Kathy Lishman, resident of Placerville. I'm not commenting on the document, but I do agree with what Heidi said about it being the events create community, and that's what it's about. And Ruth talked about feeling like they're divorced from the city. I got on the city council in 1988, and I felt like the downtown was divorced, that the city and the downtown were divorced. And then the PDA was developed and the merchants were very involved. One of the things that I know that helped fund the events was when they paid their business license, they also paid an $80 fee. And then every year at a certain time of the year, that money went to the PDA. But they had a coordinator, Lisa, and I can't say enough about the good work that she did and how, and that's what I think is missing, but how she ran all of the events, and she's right, Heidi's right, there's not enough pay. It's a part-time pay for a full-time job. But there has to be a way that things can run smoothly again. I certainly believe that. I don't know the answer. And I know there's a problem now that needs to be fixed, but I just wanted to mention about the $80 that was paid with their business license every year.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward to offer public comment on this topic? Okay. Did you guys want to? Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think the consensus, yes. If we can try to keep it to about 1 minute. Yes, thank you so much.
So that is part of the PBID, Parking Business Improvement District. It is an additional fee that's assessed on the businesses in the Central Business District. The city has an obligation when collecting that money to then reinvest that money in things that support the development of business in the Central Business District. At the time, it was about $11,000 to $12,000 a year. I have wanted to know how that money has been allocated in the past 4 to 5 years. And I would like to suggest that a request be made that that money go back to the current merchant association. They could pay for almost 2 street closures with that money. The money that is collected from their business license that is supposed to be spent on their business promotion. I think it's a natural fit.
Thank you. Thank you. And is there anyone else that would like to offer public comment on this agenda item? Okay. And seeing no more, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment on this particular topic. Let me go ahead and make sure I have the right pages in front of me. One moment. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring this back to the commissioners. Do you guys have any thoughts or questions for staff? I have a lot to say on the topic, but I'm going to...
I do. This goes to the staff. Mr. Dennis, what have we found out on the surveys, if anything? Have we finalized that, or we're waiting for a different date to finalize?
We ended up closing the survey on the 15th. We, for the most recent survey we collected, was around approximately 50 surveys. And to be quite frank, it's a pretty mixed bag. So going back as far as 2022, when the Placerville Economic Advisory Committee also did a downtown survey, there's a very polarized perspective in regards to how these are kind of managed in where the city has an amount of, and I have some of the numbers if you want them, has contributed in excess of what that business improvement development assessment. So I think if, to your point, 50-50. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Out of all of the surveys that we've been getting, which includes the feedback directly at the public meeting, which is also streamed online. So if individuals want to go ahead and watch that, they have that as well. That's a good question.
Thank you. Of course, go ahead.
I'm still kind of new, and this is directed to our staff, at what I'm allowed to do. Am I allowed to ask the public a question after public comment is closed?
After public comment is closed, no, at this
can't.
point right now, yes.
Okay.
You can ask us the question, and we can try and relay and find out the information. This
Okay.
would be ideal. But I think in particular, did you have a question for us?
I didn't get a chance to go back to look at the previous city council meetings that were held pre-COVID, but I know there was a discussion that involved some of our audience members with regards to the annual, the 11,000, that amount of money that went for the business licenses to not be given to the PDA anymore. I don't have the exact facts. That's why I wanted to ask the question with regards to that.
So I can respond to that if that's something you're interested in.
Yes, please.
So I guess the best example would be the crisscross lights across Main Street. We had actually put them up a little earlier this year to kind of get ahead of the season. If you notice, a lot of the events happen within Q3 and Q4, and so we were able to get them up a little bit early based on storage for the lights, maintenance for the lights, installation for the lights, and taking down the lights. We paid approximately $11,500 this last year. And for residents who have been here long before me, we actually used to also contribute to the flowers that were also placed on Main Street, which, amazing, gorgeous, beautiful. We did not have enough funds this year to be able to do that. We had to actually make a choice based on where we are with the cost of, labor and installation. So that's where this year, that's where that money went.
I should probably re-ask the question then. I'm trying to remember, and maybe this will have to be, I'll have to figure this out after hours, but there was a reason, and forgive me to those of you that know me, and I should probably have looked at this, but there was a reason why the money was no longer given to the PDA, and it was discussed at a city council meeting, as far as I remember. I could be confused, but I remember that happened, and I could get the answer if I could ask a question, but but I'd have to direct it towards a person in public.
You could direct a question, and if someone wants to answer it, you could direct a question to us, and then if someone wants to answer the question.
Okay. All right. I would love to ask for a briefing and a reminder from Heidi with regards to that meeting. Because you have the facts. I don't remember.
Yeah. At the time, there was a rift in the relationship between the PDA and the city, but things have changed. The PDA is no longer PDA. There's a merchant association that is trying to pick up and build, and hopefully the rift has been healed. And so I think there's an opportunity for that to be reconsidered.
Thank you.
But thank you, because that was, I just wanted to make, because I didn't know if I was making that up, and this is not a direct at you, I just remember that meeting was a conversation, and that was the rift, but I wanted to, I don't know if you guys, you probably didn't know about that, but I wanted my brain to be refreshed with that information of like, was I correct? Did it go away? And then now it actually could come back. And I meant to watch those old, but time. So anyways, that's great. Thank you. I'm glad I didn't just dream that up. All right. And now I know to ask during public comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Point of order, Chair. Just really quick, Commissioner Wendell, I want to provide some framework in regards to the context for you to be able to provide some of that feedback, and as we move forward to potentially make a recommendation Based on the conversation that you and I had earlier, would you like to share a little bit around some of that disclosure?
I would like to make the disclosure that I do own a business on Main Street, and that I do have some skin in that game with regards to the events and whatnot. But I'm here as an advisory and unbiased to the city council and to our commission here tonight. I'm acting tonight as a commissioner that is also a businessman on Main Street.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question on the cost share where it says the cost to the city will vary. How is it determined what will be covered and what will not? Is that a part of the application? Is there a standard process what will be covered, won't be covered, or is it just based on the needs of the applicant?
It's actually based on the type of event. And so I think the two events that are probably the most recent, let's talk a little bit around the homecoming parade, probably the easiest, right? And so we had predicted and permitted them for a rolling stop in regards to one police officer and the procession, right? And so that's a clear word in regards to a procession. And for those of you who were in town during the homecoming parade, it actually turned into a full closure, primarily based on some of the safety components and the young people walking across the street and floats being built on the street. And so it really has to do with the type of event that's there. I know there are some mixed feelings in regards to Oktoberfest, but the closing of the parking lots, for example, and allowing beer gardens would definitely cost less than shutting down as a full street closure. And so then at that point, we have more man hours, more police. And so it really kind of, when you say based on fees will vary, that's part of that intake process that I've built into the new application information, where we would sit down with each individual. And most times, if anyone's kind of, hey, I want to buy this one thing, I want to go here, and they say, well, I want all the bells and whistles. Well, you quote them a price, and then after a while, they're like, well, maybe I don't need heated seats or 6 police cars. Okay, well, then let's take a look at it and see kind of where are certain pieces. I think what we're trying to do tonight is identify, okay, well, we know which events are important. We know which events, to Commissioner Wendell, we know which events the city is going to have some skin in the game. So let's identify what those events are and start beating around the bush. Right? So where are we going to subsidize these pieces? Where are we going to be able to implement some of those protocols? I don't even care if I have to dig 20 holes and put in 20 bollards throughout downtown. Fine, we'll find the most cost-effective solution to be fiscally responsible. We just want to make sure what we're doing versus what other people are doing. And then at the same time, I don't mean it in a mean way, other people are doing, we also want to be fair if there are commercial interests that are coming in from outside and we're saying, hey, look, these are some of the things that we know that are our legacy. We've been doing these things. We work and we partner well with them. Why are we having our residents jump through hoops? There should be standards. Health permit, insurance, and all of these other pieces. So to your point, it varies based on that, on what the need is for each particular event.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I do have a lot to say on this particular topic. Thank you for the feedback there, Mr. Dennis. I want to kind of narrow this down by probably going through the staff report specifically. The key things, because I've talked to a lot of people on this topic, made a lot of phone calls, and I also attended the most recent community feedback meeting on this to make sure I got everyone's opinions heard prior to this meeting today. Some of the key phrases that have really stood out to me was the concept of the marriage, volunteers, and community. Those particular phrases, with that in mind, I want to kind of narrow down on the recommendation C on the first page on the staff report. It's written, identify city legacy events and where the Recreation and Parks Division shall maintain oversight and coordination of event as it pertains to providing the residents a safe and fun event that benefits both residents, Placerville families, the city, and local businesses. So I think very importantly, I would like to make sure that it does not say that the city shall maintain oversight, but I think it would be better if it said co-sponsorship. I think that it's important knowing that a lot of the events that have been successful have had a very, very strong volunteer base, co-sponsorship based. And I also don't want to mislead the public in thinking that the city is going to be taking charge, fully funding, fully organizing, when the reality is I don't even know if we have enough staff for some of the magnitude of these events that have had so many volunteers. I think that the idea that the city would take oversight, that would not be my recommendation. It would be that we would remain co-sponsors. And the next part where it says, and coordination of the event, I would say changing that to coordination assistance. So that way we know that we're coming into those legacy events. If we have to take a little bit more because maybe the co-sponsors had some challenges with the funding, then the city can step in as necessary. That being said, I think it's really important that we make those changes to the recommendation, that it does not state that the city shall maintain oversight, but it'll maintain co-sponsorship for those legacy events and coordination assistance. For the commissioners, I would like to ask probably a collective effort in identifying what those legacy events are. I can tell you what my recommendation would be, if that would be a good start before asking the rest of you. I know let me pull this up here. I obtained from the city one of their previous 2024 special event dates and information. I think it was presented previously to City Council. That part I might be wrong on, but I have a list in front of me. The Rise and Shine Day of Service that's been established as a volunteer event, it's coordinated by the city. I've attended that in the past. I think that should continue and remain as a legacy event, being co-sponsored or led by the city, because I think that's highly volunteers. I think there's a lot of churches that actually help organize and promote that amongst their members. Community cleanup days, that is also in partnership with El Dorado Disposal. That offers a lot of free resources to the public. The other legacy event that has stood out to me was also, let me make sure I have it written right, was the wagon train event. I do believe that there's been a recent, I don't think it's been as long-standing as the wagon train, but the Golden History Days has been, I believe, scheduled in the past also on that same day. So I would have to ask the commissioners what their vote would be on that particular facet, but my vote would be to continue co-sponsoring the wagon train specifically. And the Golden History Days, the event organizers would apply through a separate application process. But you guys can also take some notes on that. We can ask staff more questions on that. The other legacy events that I think I would recommend that the city co-sponsor, let me go through the rest here. The Homecoming Parade that was recently on Main Street, that I do also believe there is a standing agreement with the high school, so I would think that would be continued to be co-sponsored. Let me take a look here. Halloween event, I think should also remain a co-sponsored event with the city of Placerville. That would also be my recommendation. This year, I think it's called the Hometown Holidays, but I would probably narrow that down to just say Christmas tree lighting, because I think the name has changed multiple times. So I'd say the Christmas tree lighting would continue to be a co-sponsored event, and the Christmas parade I would also recommend remain as a co-sponsored event. Co-sponsored meaning there's been some different groups and organizations that have partnered with the city. Some of the previous event organizers have raised as much as $65,000 for one Christmas tree lighting in 1 year alone. And And then there's, of course, the parade organizers that have been doing it. I think the current ones have been around for about 30 years. So I really think it's important that we maintain the marriage and not do a city-led takeover, which is why I think some of that language needs to be adjusted to identifying these as the legacy events and recommend to City Council that we continue to co-sponsor these events. And anything outside those legacy events is what that application process would be for. So with that, I'm going to open it up to the other commissioners for your thoughts, questions for me, staff, see if that makes sense.
The homecoming parade, it turned into a road closure.
Barely.
That's correct.
So if that's going to be an event that you choose, we got to plan for the road closure then, unless we taper it down and we write some words that states not to be a road closure, right? Is that correct?
I think it really just is the preference of the recommendation for the commission. I mean, in all fairness, we've all heard the comments in regards to the length, the amount of participants. We made KCRA around 30 throwing candy, you know, so I think there are some components there as a co-sponsor that we could add into the language in regards to kind of tapering down a little bit, but we would take your direction on that.
I didn't, it was,
Did you have a thought on that, Tony?
yeah, I mean, if it turned into a road closure, as a merchant myself, I didn't notice it as being a road closure that evening. It was late in the day. It was very quick, in my opinion, really celebratory, a lot of fun, and a lot of people around on Main Street, which was really, really nice. I guess my thought process with regards to that, I don't think of that as an event. When I think of an event, I think of it as the community event of
Right.
of events, you know, like Halloween, like Golden History Days, and whatnot. And that situation, I thought I had read some language there about limiting legacy events to 3, but I think that's for street closures.
Yep. You can have anything you want. You can't have everything you want, right? So it's a big piece of toast and a small piece of butter.
Okay.
So we want to be able to prioritize what it is. And I apologize, Commissioner Potter. I misspoke. I had understood you talking about the Christmas event, and I misheard you in regards to the homecoming event.
Homecoming, yeah.
Yeah, and the homecoming event, my apologies, was initially designed as a rolling closure that ended up being a full
Road closure, yeah.
Correct.
Okay, so I guess my question would be, based on what we're reading here, not to exceed 8 annually, on these legacy events that we're going to decide on, are we going to decide on prioritizing, say, 3 legacy events and then 8 applicants afterwards, or is the 8 included in the 3? If we have 7 legacy events, only leaving 1 that's not, I mean, I don't think that's feasible.
So I do agree with you. So my recommendation is that this limitation, let's see, I want to say let me check to make sure I have the right document. I want to say, this is the application and instructions attachment, page 3, where it actually has the quarters itemized. So my recommendation would be to not include legacy events in this full street closure limitation. My recommendation would also be to say that these limitations of 2 per quarter should only be for full street closures, because there's smaller events, like, for example, when there was an officer who had passed away, there was an emergency procession that was planned for the community on Main Street. The high school as a legacy event is smaller. It's supposed to be a procession. It sounds like maybe something changed last minute this particular year, but that's not the usual. So these particular numbers, my recommendation would be for full street closures that would not include co-sponsored legacy events. That way it does give members of the public who want to organize or create special events or do the beer gardens or the Oktoberfest, they have the opportunity to apply for that. And they know exactly what's outlined in that process, and they also have opportunities to apply for a smaller version of that event to cut down on costs and hopefully still keep their profits up. So my recommendation is this particular limitation of 2 per quarter would not apply to the legacy events, so it'd be outside of. So for example, the fall quarter, right? We have Halloween and 2 Christmas events, that's 3 already. That wouldn't fit into this 2 limitation, not including the high school procession.
Also have the sugar school.
And Sugar School. So Sugar School would be expected to apply because it's not going to be considered a legacy event. So anything that it wouldn't be a legacy event would need to go through the application process.
So I would say, given that logic, that we can't have 7 designated legacy events.
So the city council has previously voted in that number, which was in the staff report. In March 2022, City Council adopted a resolution approving the Department of Community Service to oversee 7 street closures for special events. So it has been done before. I did actually go back and look at that, those specific 7. Some of those, if you give me one moment, I actually took a screenshot of it earlier. That particular time, they voted in Wagon Train, Static Classic Car Show, which I think wasn't on Main Street this year, Winterlust, Oktoberfest, Trick or Treat, Halloween, Festival Lights, and the Parade.
Last year.
This was in 2022 specifically.
Okay. So, but did that limit the amount of applications that came in street closures after that? Was there any other street closures allocated above that 7?
Yes, but that's what started why we're here today, which was Sugar School and Girls Night Out.
Yes.
Because it put the city outside of that number 7. Well, yeah, and the car show took themselves off the calendar, from my understanding, is the feedback that I had received. So that being said, now's the opportunity to recommend to City Council what we feel would be a good opportunity to identify the legacy events now, that we would say, hey, we recommend to City Council, we think these are great legacy events that represent community, and then anything outside of that, people would go through this application process.
Okay, so I guess I'm still a little unclear on exactly this particular 8 number. So if we identify 7 legacy events, we're then, again, not going to allocate 7 other street closures. There's going to be 1, right?
Only in the last, well, that's if it's in the last quarter, no. So let's just look at the fall calendar, for example. So right here it says 2 full street closures in the last quarter. So the city's already, I would recommend to the city to help co-sponsor Halloween, the Christmas parade, and the tree lighting. Those 3 would be separate because they'd be legacy events. So that wouldn't be included in the 2 opportunities that members of the public would want to apply and have their event hosted in the last quarter.
I don't think that's how it reads.
Yeah, I'm interpreting it as staff is putting a limit of 8 street closures total, including the legacy events.
So the legacy events that we decide on will take priority, and then the additional slots would be filled by these applicants on who would be determined by City Council.
Right. The only limitation is that if Christmas tree lighting, if there's only supposed to be 2 during a quarter, Christmas tree lighting and the Christmas parade and Halloween will have to, one of them will have to go, or one of them will have to be combined.
So I just want to remind you guys, it's a staff report. That doesn't mean we have to do exactly how it's written. So I'm sharing with you what I would like to change on how the report is written.
Right.
So my recommendation is to identify legacy events that would be separate and not included in this limitation, because For example, when we had an officer pass away, there was an emergency procession, which I would think we would be ridiculous to not allow because we have this hard number of 8. So my recommendation is separate the legacy events, and the full street closure limitations would be for anyone that applies for a separate event outside of, so that means outside of the Christmas tree lighting, outside of the hometown parade procession, because that's something that's been established with the high school. That wouldn't include the, what was the other one I think I'd mentioned? Rise and Shine event. Those would be kind of legacy events that would not be considered in this limitation number. That's my recommendation.
So, but I still think, for the purposes of what we're trying to do here, that number can't be open-ended for the closures, right? We're putting a number at 8, so we can't have 7 legacy events and 15 applications and approve all 15. That's not feasible either.
No, that's why it would be that limitation. So, and this is for full street closures. So that means, again, let's take the fall out of it. So the city of Placerville would have no legacy events January, February, March. So if any member of the public wants to apply for that specific time, let's say 3 people applied, only 2 are going to get it regardless, because the limitation is 2. They can maybe apply for the following year, but the limitation is 2 for any event that is outside of legacy events.
Which is what number is what I'm trying to ask. How
What's
many
the
legacy
question?
events are we backing, and how many closures?
My
above that are we?
recommendation is to back the already established.
7?
Well, I'd have to go through and
There's
count.
eight-
How
There's
many?
8. There's 8. What I have written down here, there's 8.
So I'd have to write it out to make sure what I actually read. But, so we can go through and count now. I recommend Rise and Shine, Community Cleanup Day, oh yeah, I think I did miss, Wagon Train, Homecoming Parade, Halloween,
Tree lighting,
tree lighting,
wagon tree, got
and the parade, yeah, so 7.
golden,
So,
Christmas parade.
yeah, so I would say 7. That's my recommendation, is to separate legacy events that the city is like, we here forward are saying we will help commit to assisting with barricades, with police, whatever might be necessary, and work with the co-sponsors who are very well-established volunteers here forward.
You also
And
have
then the
homecoming.
application process would be for people like, I want to do Oktoberfest, or I want to do Beer Garden, or I want to do Girls' Night Out, or I want to do Sugar Skull. Because one of the biggest things at that meeting that I attended when Girls' Night Out and Sugar Skull asked City Council for street closures, it was the mayor herself who had stated that if they begin opening up Placerville to more events on Main Street, it was very important to her and the city council that the costs recovery fall to the event organizers. So that is why I am, based on my presence at that meeting and hearing it myself, I think it would be ideal to separate the legacy events, and the city commits there forward to helping co-sponsor, and then anything outside of that that's for commercial or nonprofit otherwise would go through the application process.
I think the question is, how many road closures does the city want or allow?
I mean, it was
That's
12. it
that's
was
the
moved to
question.
8.
That's
So if that's
exactly right.
8, there's already 3 that are listed, actually 4 homecoming. The rest are not closures.
That's a procession.
That leaves, it's true, but if it turns into a closure, it's not. So 3 or 4, that leaves 4 more road closures, street closures that a private party can come in and do with the application. That's what Larissa's saying.
Okay. So when we're determining these legacy events, in particular to this number of 8, are we going to even identify the community cleanup as a legacy event as it doesn't pertain to closing the road?
No, so
No, exactly.
I would say, so I would say yes as a legacy event.
But it's
because
not what we're
been
talking about here. We're talking about closing the roads, right?
Yeah.
Closing down Main Street is what we're discussing. We're not talking about anything that has anything to do with not closing Main Street as it pertains to this particular discussion. So identifying those as legacy events is a moot point as it pertains to this document here, correct? Am I
I
wrong?
would say partially, when I met with staff, it was implied to me that it was we're kind of trying to go over everything, because we put the definitions at the end of the packet. We're trying to kind of tackle that as well. Unless I'm wrong, we can refer to Mr.
I'm
Dennis
going
on
to be as
that.
candid as possible.
I'm sorry, what
I'm
did you just?
going to be as candid as possible.
Okay.
This is why we're here, right?
Yeah.
At one point at the start of 2024, there were 12 events that the city had approved. Everything from Rise and Shine, Community Cleanup Day, Taste on Main, Memorial Run, Golden History Day, Special Olympics Torch Run, Aspire Kids Block Party, Girls Night Out, Oktoberfest, which was a hybrid this year, Taste on Main, High School Homecoming Parade, Cleanup Day, Trick or Treat on Main, Sugar Skull, Hometown Holidays, Hometown Christmas Parade, and potentially a Jingle Mingle Run. Of those events, 10 of them were closures. So what we're hoping to do right now, and this is at the discretion, I'm here to serve at the discretion of the commission in regards to what your recommendation is, and I take that to city council. I'm telling you 8. Whatever you decide is what you decide. I'm here to serve you.
Okay. So that's way more clear. So we're talking about 8 closures, right? So when we're talking about legacy events, if we identify out of 7, say 4 closures, right? There's opportunity for 4 additional.
Road closures.
That's it.
That's it.
No,
Correct.
So,
Right?
8 road closures total.
That's right, but
So we can't identify 7 legacy events and then
Well,
have
legacy-
the application process will only allow for 1 more.
I think a legacy event as in legacy road closure events. Rise and Shine. It's not part of that, in my humble opinion. I think
so when it comes from
I
Parks
agree
and,
with you.
yeah, when it comes from Parks and Rec, and when it was presented to City Council for 2024, that's why Mr. Dennis read the full list, all of it was on there. So whether it's procession or full event, so here's the deal. At the end of the day, we're making the recommendation forward. So my recommendation is to separate the legacy events, stating we recommend to City Council that they should sponsor X, Y, and Z events, and then have the application process for everything outside of that. That's my recommendation. If you have another idea, you
No,
want to
I-
put it into words. So
I understand that.
Yeah,
What-
so do you want to propose something different is my
But
question.
on your recommendation, there is no number. It's open.
No, my number would be that same list that I went down, and these are legacy events. Anything outside of that, there needs to be an application
But
process.
what I'm saying is that recommendation doesn't solidify how many closures we could have.
We meaning the city or meaning the
city.
public?
The closing down Main Street, if we cap it at 8, your recommendation would be we co-sponsor these 7 events and then application process for anybody else who wants a closure. That doesn't give us a cap on how many closures we could have.
It does, 2 per quarter.
it's 8.
That's the cap.
It's 8.
So if you're saying you don't want to have, the public to have those 2 per quarter opportunity, then
No,
maybe.
that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is, if we identify 7 events,
Okay,
out of those, 3 of them fall within a quarter, so it's, we already know that's not going to be a thing. But if we're only talking about 8 closures, how many of these are not closures? 3?
not full street closures? I would say probably the majority of them. I think they're really the only closures
Rise and Shine.
is,
Rise and Shine's not, right? That's in
yeah, so
different
it'd be
locations.
Wagon Train.
Wagon Train's not a closure?
I think that's a closure,
That's a closure,
right?
yeah.
Wagon Train's closure,
Uh-huh.
Halloween.
Halloween,
Orange closure for
tree lighting, parade, 4 closures.
parade, okay.
Christmas parade, yeah.
So,
So that would give the opportunity for applicants to have 4 slots potentially
That's right.
for,
So-
okay.
would you recommend 1 per quarter?
No, I'm
No,
just.
no. He's just clarifying.
talking about the number.
Okay.
The 8 legacy
If we
stands, which you
identify,
read.
right, so what I was confused about is identifying 7 events would only give an opportunity for one applicant, is where I misunderstood.
Oh, yeah, no, so I'm saying separate the legacy events and then create a limited number for
Yes.
applicants, which then falls into this 2 per quarter. My recommendation would be separate legacy events and then 2 opportunities for applicants in the first quarter, 2 opportunities second quarter, 2 opportunities in the third quarter, and I would recommend the fourth quarter goes down to 1 application because we already have 3 from the city.
But then we would have foreclosures, we can't do that either.
No.
So so I guess, but then you have events like Sugar School that has to be in the fourth quarter if they got their application in on time. That's why that's
On Main. That's
the application.
It doesn't have to be on Main. So
That
I
is
think-
also true.
I understand that it's, and I respect what your recommendation is. My understanding was that we were tasked with the job of determining which events we're going to allow, or which events are going to be street closure events. Out of the 8 street closure events on Main Street, which ones are legacy events on there, giving the fact that fourth quarter is a time where street closures are hard to do. However, some of the most popular legacy events. So I'd like to, if it's all right with you, I'd like to make a recommendation just to reiterate how, just make it more clear how I feel about it. I'd recommend January, February, March, making the street closures down to 1, and then adding a third during fourth quarter, and then make the legacy events Trick or Treat on Main, Christmas tree lighting, or hometown holidays on Main, the Christmas tree parade, or the Christmas parade, and also Golden History Days. Where I determine, or what I think of as the a legacy event is that staff pays for, or the city pays for the street closures, and then there is a co-sponsor in with that. So because Golden History is aligned with Wagon Train, which is basically built on the foundations of our town and what we've been through, that should be a legacy event. The city should pay for the street closure. A rolling street closure is not doable with Wagon Train, in my humble opinion. It is also, in my humble opinion, and again, I am a merchant, and there are other merchants that are here, I do not feel that we should combine the parade with the tree lighting, and that should be separate. So we would have 3 that, and that would be my recommendation for that thing. That does then, of course, leave Sugar Skull. I think we're also tasked with deciding which events should maybe possibly move off of to other areas of our city, Broadway, Placerville Drive, and whatnot. Not knowing what the survey results are, I can't be influenced by the public's or the participants' decisions on that. But as a person that's lived here since 1976, and also has been kind of involved with some of these events and seen how difficult it is, that would be my recommendation, to do that, to pull 1 out in January, make it 3 for October, and the legacy, and adding, it's already a given that Halloween, tree lighting, and parade are legacy events. I think we should add Wagon Trains to the legacy event and treat it similar to Halloween Trick or Treat on Main, which is an event that Amy Pooley and I co-sponsor. So it's a co-sponsoring event, and with the city paying for the street closure and some of that particular situation, and with the co-sponsor taking care of the marketing and advertising, and basically the management of the event outside of what the city duties are. I felt that was our responsibility tonight, was to not talk about Rise and Shine and things that happen outside that are more community events. I see this more as the events that either bring in commerce or family and love down to Main Street in that particular sense. The fourth quarter is the hardest one because, it's really hard to close the streets on those days. However, if we look what happened with Oktoberfest the way it was. The outcry from the community was pretty intense. Imagine if we said, we're not going to do tree lighting, or we're not going to do, Halloween. It would be just as bad. In my humble opinion, as a commissioner and also a merchant on Main.
So that's still 4 road closures.
That's eight road closures.
So there's a few things there. With the wagon train and the Golden History Days, oh no, this question's for you, Tony, sorry. So from my understanding, the wagon train's been established for a very long time. How long has the Golden History Days been occurring?
3 years now, I think. Yeah, 3 years, yeah.
So I'm going to read to you the definition that was prepared by staff in our packet tonight. Legacy event, a long-standing tradition event occurring annually with a focus on upholding the heritage of the city of Placerville's culture and history. These events focus on creating opportunities to build community, enrich positive relationships throughout the city, and has a direct impact to the residents of the city of Placerville. So for me, something that's been around for 3 years doesn't, in my opinion, because we have other commissioners that can give feedback on opinions as well, I don't know that the Golden History Days fits into that, but I think, sorry, my alarm, I feel like Wagon Train does.
Would you consider Halloween to be a legacy event?
Yeah, I
Okay.
would say Halloween.
So the co-sponsoring of Halloween has only been going on for 3 years.
But
So Golden
has it-
History Days is essentially the co-sponsoring of the Wagon Train event.
How long has the Halloween event been occurring on Main Street, though, regardless of the co-sponsoring?
40 years?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
to me, that's
Longer than-
legacy.
Right, well, Wagon Train's been going on since 1849.
Exactly, very legacy.
But Tony, or excuse me, Bonkers Toy Store co-sponsoring Halloween has only been going on for 3 years, turning
Right.
into a much bigger and better event that the community loves. Golden History Days turns Wagon Train from people just waiting, when is the Wagon Train going to get here, to a big event on Main Street that has, in my opinion, been very successful.
What makes it successful? Is it that it's bringing people together? Is it increasing commerce? Like what's,
Doing all of that.
okay.
Yeah.
So,
They are combined. It's the same day. It's the same
So-
thing. In the past, when there wasn't an event attached to Wagon Train, people were just waiting around. We closed the streets. Nobody knew exactly when the Wagon Train was going to get there because it could be very variable. So people would just wait around and then doing nothing because they didn't want to lose their place in line. And you kind of knew they were going to be here, but then folks were leaving because it wasn't around, or as soon as the Wagon Train went by, they were out. And that thing, and it was a similar, I think, and again, my impression of, or interpretation of Golden History Days is to add value to the event itself, where Halloween was kind of a conveyor belt of everybody getting candy up and
Yeah.
down, and then sayonara, no one was making money that night, so why don't we make it better and bring a carnival and a community aspect to keep people down there, not just getting free candy, so they will maybe go into the restaurants and the stores and buy stuff during that time. And last year I did see more stores were open during that time than before. Sometimes stores would just close and leave during Halloween. And when I first opened my business in town and asked about Halloween, a lot of people were like, oh gosh, we don't like it because it costs
Very
us
crowded,
money
too.
and
Yeah.
we don't make any money, but it's a nice thing to do for the community. Well, why not? We have 5,000 people coming down. We're always wanting people to come to our downtown. So why not, I hate to use the word, but monetize it. And also in exchange, give the community something that is super duper fun. And if last year's participation was any indication of how successful it was great. I felt Golden History Days was really good this year. It was a lot better the year before, but I think a lot of times the weather has to do with it. And also there are some new policies and new rules and regulations that were thrown at the organizers at the last minute. This year that kind of made it a little bit wonky. However, I do believe that if the city allowed that to be a legacy event, and the street closure fee was paid on that, which it would be any, I mean, in a sense it kind of is, then we could just lock Golden History Days in as a legacy, but add the word wagon train to it so it's not confused that it's the same thing. That's my
I
thing.
like that
So
idea.
my question is, would you feel comfortable if we included Wagon Train as the legacy event, and then when this goes to city council, we say, we are also requesting you to consider also the Golden History
As
Days
the co-sponsor.
as, well, because you never know if something changes, but say, would you consider co-sponsoring also on the same day the Golden History Days?
Right.
So that way it gives city council the option to say, yes, we want to back.
Right. And you
That
could
moving
say
forward.
similar to Halloween, how it enhances the event of Wagon Train.
And that way, so that way they have, because just because it hasn't been as long for that
And
one,
actually,
but
I mean,
that way we can ask the city council and say, hey, we recommend that you back Wagon Trains as co-sponsor, and also consider that same day
Right.
co-sponsoring the,
Golden History Days.
Golden
And I
History
should stand
Days, thank
corrected. Golden History Days has been around for 3 years. However, before that, it was called, there was another event called Hangtown Days before that. So there have been events
in connection to,
incorporated with it. And,
Okay.
and when Hangtown Days came up, it was before COVID. And
that's title's since been changed.
yeah, exactly. But that was the new thing. It was like, hey, let's similar to Halloween, let's enhance Wagon Train and make it more fun. And Wagon Train Day or Hangtown Days was off the hook. Great. COVID happened, and then the second Hangtown Days was super off the hook. Great, because everybody was locked up and not able to do anything, and that event was crazy fun at that time. And then things changed, and then it became Golden History Days. The first one, nobody really knew what was going on. It was at the park. It wasn't on Main Street. Second year, it was on Main Street. I felt it was a really good event at that time, and it just enhances the history of our town and also allows us to give back to the community a little bit with more things to do than just waiting around for horses and there were buggies that come by and all that kind of jazz. So.
Okay.
I want to ask you, Tony, you seem to know a lot about these two events. Why are they separate? If they're combined and they're part of the same kind of celebration, couldn't we just rename it and have them both happening at the same time, but be part of the same kind of celebration?
Are you talking about Golden History Days and Wagon Train?
Yeah.
It is kind of that way already.
But my point is, are there two separate organizations that are producing two separate events, basically?
Well, it's my understanding that the Golden History Days is an event with a bunch of folks that are co-sponsoring this event along with the city, and Wagon Train is part of that. They're coming down that day as well. So in a way, it's not like they're separate. Wagon Train's going to happen regardless, and
Yeah.
If there wasn't Golden History Days or anything else going on that day, more than likely the Wagon Train would be a rolling street closure, and just following the horses out.
Okay.
And I think that has happened before. However, I think Wagon Train, the aspect of it, the cowboy aspect of it, the heritage aspect of it, has been kind of lost on some folks over the last few years. And I think it's a real important part of our history to have that. And Golden History Days brings in more important parts of our history that have also been ignored. So calling it Golden History Days with the Wagon Train at the same time is kind of...
But it seems to me that we could combine both of them and still have the same kind of event, but call it something else.
Like Wagon Train Days?
Yes, just
Right.
call it Wagon Train Days. And
So there wouldn't be two legacy events for the same thing.
exactly.
Yeah, that makes complete
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, right. No, my
Yeah.
thing was, I consider Golden History Days and Wagon Train the same event. But
Well, I
yeah.
would assume that the community does not see the difference either.
Correct.
And so it would be a moot point.
Right.
And so let's just stop calling them two separate events, solidify it.
I think it's because it has been two separate events. Wagon Trains has been going on since what year?
But we don't need to have it two
18-something?
separate events.
Yeah. I mean,
So
it's,
the Golden History Days, it's different event organizers on the same day.
it's a co-sponsorship.
Yeah, so I would say it's, so I would kind of default to the same concept of identifying Wagon Train as legacy event, and then ask City Council to consider co-sponsoring Wagon Train organize, or not, it's not Wagon Train, excuse me, the
Allowing the
Golden
co-sponsor,
History Days as well.
Right.
Because it's different.
And then if there is if there's a consensus to change the name to Wagon Train Days, the co-sponsor, I think, should have a little bit of discussion with that as well, because I don't want to speak for them. But I think that going back to the street closures itself, it's important that we also listen to the other merchants on Main Street that don't want to have any street closures at all. So, and I understand their points, and their points are valid as well. Everybody's opinion is important. But we're gonna have street closures regardless. So I think we just need to figure out what are those street closures going to be. I think the processions, the homecoming, if they're an unfortunate event that there is a funeral procession and stuff, I don't think those count as the official street closures. I don't think
Yes.
homecoming or even Taste of Maine actually does too. Those are kind of like, and Taste of Maine is just a triangle event itself, so it's not really a street closure. And whereas Sugar Skull could be a triangle event and not a full street closure, and that could still be something happening in the fourth quarter at that
Yes.
particular thing.
Except they have to go through the application process.
Right.
Which is why, again, I'm recommending separating the legacy events, or if you guys as a group feel that you want to include those legacy events into the full street closure limitations, then that needs to be identified as a recommendation.
That's what I recommend.
So,
I think that's what we're talking about, exactly.
right, so,
Only 8 street closures proper.
Okay,
Including
so-
the legacy events.
okay,
Yeah.
If I may.
Go ahead,
Madam Chair.
yeah.
This is a great conversation. It's awesome to hear 5 people talk about what's been in my head for like the last 3 months, because I've been driving myself absolutely crazy, and you're asking yourselves the same questions I've been asking myself for a very, very long time. I've only been here for a short period. But in order for us to kind of quantify it and kind of put it where we're at so we can put some action to it, let me just kind of identify and recap a little bit on where we're at. Portions of the recommendation coming from Chairperson Lujan is in regards to increasing the potential annual amount from 8 street closures, delineating the difference between a community event and a street closure in excess of 8, right? Staff's recommendation is at 8. It's my understanding that Chairperson Window is actually recommending to remove one of the street closures from quarter 1, which is at 2 right now, increasing quarter 4 from 2 events to 3 events, still maintaining the full street closures at 8. Right?
Correct.
Now, delineating those two components, whether or not we combine Wagon Train, Golden History Days, and or whether or not it is on Main Street versus off Main Street, Gold Bug, I plug that because that's an amazing park. It's got amazing history. Quantifying how many street closures specifically throughout the year. Now, we'll say this. Is this the best report? Absolutely not, because we're trying to put together and fix an issue that's been around for a very, very long time. But I love Miss Ruth's analogy around a marriage and the best compromise, right? And the best compromise coming out of any type of separation and or what we had kind of illustrated as a divorce is everyone is just incrementally happy, just a little bit. You're never going to make everyone happy, and I know this sounds sardonic, but the best agreement that we can come up to right now is everybody just a little bit unhappy, right? And so how many street closures, and identifying what those specific legacy events are. At this point, I've heard Wagon Train and or Golden History Days as one option, Halloween as another option, parade and Christmas parade as one option, and the tree lighting. At that point, those are 4 street closure / legacy events. Okay, so we're qualifying those and we're defining them as 4 street closures, legacy events. And I say legacy events, and I know it's a big term, But that is what we're hoping City Council will decide to say, hey, look, we may not be able to contribute like how we've done in the past because of where the costs are, but this is where we're putting our skin in the game. This is what we're providing. We are willing to make the statement and saying Golden History Days or Wagon Train Days combined is something that we are going to hang our hat on. These are the things that we want to be able to co-sponsor, and I accept that understanding in regards to some of the verbiage in there as opposed to leading it and or co-sponsoring it or overseeing it. And that's duly noted, and we'll definitely make those changes in our staff report as we make that presentation. The main piece is, as far as it goes with Rise and Shine, Community Cleanup, Fishing Derby, Taste on Main, Girls Night Out, those are other components that are great events. We'd love to have them. We'd love to do them all. But unfortunately, at this point, we're only voting on how much we can do, and this is what we're saying. We're saying we can only do X amount a year per quarter, and these are the ones that the city is willing to partner or co-sponsor in, because these are the legacy events that we believe are going to uphold our heritage. So at this point, I believe that there was consensus in regards to either A, increasing them from 8, and I think the last I counted based on our chairperson was potentially 12 throughout the year, and or keeping it at 8 and potentially moving one of them from Q1 down to Q4 and keeping it still at 8, but still identifying Golden History Days Wagon Train as 1, Halloween, parade, Christmas parade, and tree lighting.
The second recommendation was mine, and that's where I'll stand as my recommendation.
Okay. So we can continue to deliberate just in regards to our and I love it. I think it's a great conversation. We were actually debating, keep talking, it's fine. I think it's a great conversation. However, in the essence of making sure that we're kind of being succinct, we can either accept a motion and or the motion be denied, and or if the motion is accepted, move on from there, and then that's at the discretion of the chairperson. You can actually accept a motion to increase it, deny the motion, and accept another one. So we have options, if that makes any sense.
I want to ask Tony I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
One question. I think I heard you say that you were not in favor of combining the tree lighting and the parade. Is that
Correct.
Can you explain why?
Yes.
Good.
Oh, you want me to?
Please.
Oh, okay. Because that would be a very long day.
Oh,
We wouldn't be able to keep. Yeah, we wouldn't be able to keep people there that long.
Okay.
With the parade right now being as long as it was last year, I think there's been some conversation with the organizers to maybe truncate that a little bit.
It was the longest ever last year. The most.
Yeah, it was ever, and and it was awesome looking at all those trucks and stuff. But I think we can make it a little shorter to allow the people up the hill that are coming down from the hill with their apple pies and whatnot to pop into our place as well. But combining it would I think create a logistical nightmare, because there's parking lots that are closed on Sundays that the parade uses to stage their thing. And with the tree lighting being a tradition, some traditions can be argued need to be changed to different days, but others can argue that traditions should stay on that same day.
okay.
And so that's kind of where.
And what would your recommendation be? Is the tree lighting first or the parade first?
Tree lighting on Black Friday, or day after Thanksgiving.
The day after
As
Thanksgiving?
it all, yes, it's been.
Traditionally.
Yeah, and then a Sunday Christmas tree, Christmas parade.
Got it.
At that time, to maybe perhaps not go longer than 2 hours.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, very good discussion. There was not a lot of clarity, so that's why I was asking the questions. I'm pretty clear on what we're talking about here now. Initially, it was pretty confusing. I would motion that we move one event out of Q1, put it into Q4, make it 3 at the end, co-sponsor name these 4 events: the Wagon Train / Golden History, the parade, the tree lighting, and Halloween as legacy events, and keep it at 8. That would be my recommendation. I motion to move forward with that recommendation.
I have one question before we get there. So if that's our recommendation, that does not allow members of the public to organize and apply to do an event for full street closure in the last quarter.
Like,
Yeah, it gives you 4. It gives you
in the last quarter, correct?
In the last
Because
quarter.
we have 3 legacy events closures, correct?
Right, so am I understanding that you guys want to agree to not allow members of the public to organize and plan a separate
additional
event
closure in
in the
Q4.
last quarter?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the recommendation.
Point of order, there is a motion on the floor in regards to Q1 with 1 event, Q2 with 2 events, Q3 with 2 events, and Q4 with 3 events, maintaining it at 8 total. So we would entertain the motion for a second and follow the procedure and whether or not it is approved or denied.
Does anyone second?
I second.
Okay, and then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're going to go individually.
Yeah,
and then
individually,
You can tell me
yeah.
what your vote is. Sorry, I was taking a lot of notes, so apologize.
My vote is aye.
So motion is presented by Mr. Isaac, correct?
Correct?
Commissioner Wendell to approve the motion. Yes or no?
Aye, yes.
Commissioner Spencer, approve the motion. Yes or no?
Aye.
Commissioner Isaac?
Aye.
Vice Chair Potter?
Aye.
And there's an option to abstain as well. So, Chairperson Lujan.
Aye, yes.
Current action passes 5-0 in regards to maintaining the 8 total events with 1 in Q1, 2 in Q2, 2 in Q3, and 3 in Q4. We're still a pending discussion in regards to identifying the legacy events, and I do not believe I heard a motion in regards to identifying what those actual legacy events were.
Yeah, in my motion, I put the Halloween, Christmas tree lighting, the parade, and the wagon train / Golden History Days as those 4 legacy events.
Okay.
Can I add to that? So can we identify those as full street closure legacy events?
I think that's a great
And
idea.
then add the Rise and Shine, Community Cleanup Day, and I
Golden
think it's
History, I
the
think you
home.
said, or did you say
I
Golden
think
History?
the Golden
Golden History
Wagon
/
Train
Wagon
will be
Train.
more the potential full
I think
street
it's the same
closure.
thing.
They're different organizers, so city council can make the final decision on that, but Golden History Day and Wagon Train for full street closure recommendation, we'll go with that. And then adding the smaller community legacy events, I would say Rise and Shine, Community Cleanup Day, Homecoming Parade, and then outside of that, people would need to apply for the application process.
So we would need to modify the original motion.
Okay.
We need to either vote on the initial motion, but if you're modifying it, then he needs to retract his original motion, and then
Okay.
it needs to be a new motion, or you need to vote on the initial motion and it needs to fail. So either or. Either Isaac withdraws his motion and it becomes the new motion in regards to including those events,
Okay.
and/or you vote on his initial motion and that fails, and then you do a new motion.
So I'll keep my motion as is.
Okay.
Okay, so then do we need to,
You need a second and then a vote. I know it's hard. We're all.
no, it's okay.
I second.
So are we at, can we make a second motion
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
vote?
Yes.
Right?
After we vote the first part through. So if you want to, Mr. Isaac, why don't you go ahead and repeat your motion? We're
Okay.
going to do this together.
Okay,
So go ahead and repeat your initial motion. It's okay. We've all done this. Trust me, I've messed up 1,000 times. This is perfect. So repeat your initial motion and we'll go from there.
Initial motion is that we stick with the 8 closures. We move 1 out of Q1 and make 3 in Q4.
Correct.
And we name Halloween, the Christmas tree lighting, the parade, and the wagon train / Golden History as the legacy events.
Okay? Is there a second?
I second.
Got you. Thank you. And then I will call for Commissioner Wendell,
Aye.
Commissioner Potter,
Aye.
Commissioner Spencer. I know it's because you kind of did the motion and then you kind of vote on it. I know it's tricky. Commissioner Isaac,
Aye.
Chairperson Lujan.
Aye.
All right, passes 5-4. Now, if you wanted to add, then you
Yeah,
wanted to
so I
modify,
can
you could
say I
do
can
another
make
one,
a
and you
s-
could say, hey,
we
look,
can make
I
a
know
second
Yes,
motion?
we're going to do those. We want
Okay.
to do those events, but I want to
Okay.
make a motion to add these events to those pieces. But as it stands right now, we have Wagon Train, Halloween, Christmas Parade, and tree lighting, 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's correct?
For full street closure.
Or full street closures. Now, if you want to identify community events, so we don't lose that piece.
Yes, yeah,
then you could
so-
definitely do that.
So my motion would be to add the community legacy events, which would be Rise and Shine, Community Cleanup Day, the Homecoming Parade.
Did you say Fishing Derby earlier?
Oh, Fishing Derby. Yep.
Thank you, Matt. Great job,
I
buddy.
apologize. Yes,
Good
the
job,
Fishing
Matt.
Derby is also very important.
Go, buddy. He's been so good
Oh,
tonight.
I wrote
Hasn't
it
he
as
been
a special
amazing?
note way up top. I
Yeah, I
totally
got you.
overlooked my notes. Yeah,
He was
sorry.
mentioning it
Fishing Derby.
earlier.
Yes, I apologize. So Fishing Derby, Rise and Shine, Community Cleanup,
That's
and
correct. Rise and Shine Community Cleanup Day, Homecoming, and
Fishing
Fishing
Derby.
Derby.
Yes, so I would
Motion on the-
motion to recommend to City Council that we co-sponsor these smaller community events that
Perfect.
don't typically require a full street closure. So I'm motioning as a first. Does anyone want to second that?
I second.
Okay, and then we'll take a vote.
Commissioner Wendell,
Aye.
Commissioner Spencer,
Aye.
Commissioner Rubalcava,
Aye.
Vice Chair Potter,
Aye.
Chairperson Lujan.
Aye.
All right, just to recap based on our staff report, at this point, it is the recommendation of the Recreation and Park Commission to have identified the legacy events, and also, the last thing I believe we need to do is direct staff to implement some of those changes in the policy, more so in regards to, I think, some of the grammatical, clerical things I believe Chairperson Lujan had suggested. We don't necessarily have to kind of vote on those because I think those are kind of more nuanced pieces. I'll be very honest with you. My AI wasn't working when I was using Grammarly, so if you caught a lot of stuff, that was a joke, by the way. So if you caught a lot of stuff, we're definitely open to that, and you can definitely provide that feedback. And also welcome the community to help us with some of those components too, because there's going to be a learning curve in regards to implementing this, even if we're starting in 2025. We want to be understanding that because of the deadline and knowing that people aren't going to be able to plan for a whole year out until we're in a pattern and creating that continuity. If I wanted to get a camping space up at Yosemite, I already know. I got to get a year in advance, right? But we've been doing that for years. So this is something new. So we're going to have to understand some of those gray areas and be empathetic to that piece. So we don't necessarily have to vote on some of the nuances in regards to the grammatical and or structural pieces. At that point, we would, at the direction of the chair, facilitate the remainder of the agenda unless there's anything else.
Thank you. Let me pull this up here. So in the staff report, I believe page 2, at the bottom, item number 2, adoption of draft fee schedule calculated to recover direct costs for the city municipal services such as but not limited to staff hours, equipment, materials, and administrative fees. A fee waiver modifier may perhaps be applicable and presented to city council at a later date. I would really like to see the fee waiver application be presented at city council, so that way if there are nonprofits or certain qualifying factors that would allow someone to apply for a reduced cost or potentially a co-sponsorship with the city for particular events. It gives people the opportunity to apply, but I would like to see it done with maybe specific parameters that would make it, for example, I know with the, I'm probably going to forget the formal name, but the fund that Lishman always gives a report on, what's the student?
Youth fund.
The youth fund?
Yeah.
So the youth fund, for example, for students who are needing financial assistance to apply for maybe a sports program like Little League, for example, qualifying families who are low income or meet other certain qualifications can actually apply and have half their tuition costs covered from this special fund. So I think it would be nice to see a fee waiver application that has qualifying factors for event applicants to apply for, but it does have to have those specific qualifications met. Otherwise, there's no, let me rephrase this. If they don't meet those qualifying factors, then they cannot apply. So somebody that's, planning a huge, business event that's only for profit wouldn't meet those fee waiver qualifiers because it's for profit and for business. So I think there should be a fee waiver application that has appropriate qualifying opportunities. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Can I ask?
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
I just wanted to clarify the Recreation for Youth Fund. In order for us to give out any funds, we have to go out and raise those funds. So if there's no money in that account, then there's no funds to give.
Okay.
I think that might be a little bit different than what you're.
Right. And no, that makes sense. And so I guess that would be, if it's recommended for staff to try to have a fee waiver application ideally presented to the city at the same time, whether it means it needs to be self-funded. For example, how Mr. Lishman said that there's sponsors that are sought after for that fund. Perhaps that's something that, maybe it's something Merchants on Main would want to take up, or something like that. But I think there should be at least some sort of fee waiver application, and if it's something the city can help with, you guys would know the logistics of that if that is an option.
So we would take two steps in order to be able to do that. We can continue deliberation and vote on the fact that the Rec Commission is suggesting that we implement a fee waiver, in which case we would have to go back and, calculate and do our due diligence in regards to formulating a clear, quantifiable process in regards to how to award that and offset the costs. To Mr. Lishman's point, we want to be able to be fiscally responsible with our current general fund, and at this point, we don't have some of those funds, which is why we're kind of bringing it down from the 12 that we originally adopted with City Council down to 8. So we could table that discussion and start that conversation as part of the future agenda pieces, so that we can kind of get little more granular with that, get some feedback from the community, and kind of put those pieces in there. I added that as a component because I'm pretty sure that's kind of where we need to go. Right, knowing where the economy is, knowing where some of these grassroots organizations and nonprofits are, we don't want to say, hey, by the way, you pay for all your stuff, and yeah, go ahead, make your own money. So there has to be an opportunity where, the city has an opportunity to kind of try and put something together. I'm not saying we can. I'm not even saying it's a good idea. I'm saying we need to have that conversation because we want to make sure that, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Boys and Girls Club, Girls' Night, like these are great opportunities for our community, and they also bring love, which I love that. That's great analogy, right? So we can continue deliberation, and we can kind of talk about that and put together from structure, or we can table it and then kind of try and put something a little more formal together. But again, at the discretion of the commission, if that's what you so choose.
So for timing, do you guys want to table that, so that way,
Like a table at the next.
so maybe a future agenda item to
Yes.
narrow it down and see what that could possibly look like?
Yes.
Okay. But at least we know as part of the presentation, it's
great
something that
idea.
could be
It's a great.
established as part of the application process, but might not be available right away. Was that?
Yes, and if
Okay.
I'm being completely candid, we're trying to fix a 10-year problem, and so we're going to have to do it in phases.
Okay, so phases. Okay, so that's just going to
And I
have to
didn't
be
mean
for
that in a
another
rude way,
day.
but it's been a situation for a little bit of time. That's if I'm being fair about it, right?
Okay. All right, that was one of my questions on that. Okay, so I think, let me take a look here. So we need to do an adoption of the draft fee schedule.
As part of the as part of the application process.
As part of the application
The fees are
process.
what the fees are.
Yeah.
I mean, they come directly from our budget.
Yeah.
We're not, and I want to be clear, we're not, it's a zero-based budget. What
Mm-hmm.
it costs us in regards to putting maintenance staff out there to move the meridian or to put up the bollard, it is that cost recovery piece, right?
Okay.
And all of those numbers were provided. Now, we do have staff in our finance department also doing due diligence, because we do know that there is a potential for the minimum wage to go up in November to 18, you know? We want to be mindful of those pieces. So we have our finance department also supporting that piece, but the fees are pretty much what the fees are.
Okay. Do we need a motion to adopt that?
No, not necessarily, because as part of the staff report, what we ended up doing was adopting 3 different ones. I wanted to roll it up all into one, but we're only moving forward with the actions that you took tonight.
Okay. Is there anything else that we need to consider that would make your job easier that we need to look at? Do we need to adopt the full application?
We're good. You can just provide
Okay.
your feedback, and we have your recommendation based on what our staff.
What was, okay, perfect. So any other questions, concerns, or is that kind of wrap this one up? Does that wrap it up? Okay.
Yep.
So then we're going to go ahead and close let's see here. Close 8.2. And do we want to do 5-minute break, and then we'll return with Mr.
We can actually, if it's okay with you, Madam Chair.
Oh, yeah.
Matt stepped out. We can skip down to the director's update, and then when Matt comes back.
Oh, okay.
Come back and do his
Okay,
recreation update.
that works. Perfect.
I don't really have anything extensive to bring up, but I do want to make it known for the public that there has been some suggestions in regards to a business improvement district downtown, and I don't want to lose sight of our support for the small businesses in the historic Placerville downtown. And there has been some conversation with specifically Grass Valley Downtown Association and the Grass Valley Chamber of Commerce, who in fact, actually, the executive directors sit on both of those organizations, and they have a marriage, as Ms. Ruth had indicated earlier. In addition to that marriage, there is an added assessment on top of the business tax based on a sliding scale of the size of your business. I have some of that information here. I don't want to go into much debate about it or kind of sharing. So I will have that definitely available for staff during business hours, and I can set it out here tonight. In addition to that, I also have some of the surveys that came in that I believe Commissioner Potter had referenced a little bit earlier. I didn't even quantify the data. I just printed them all out and started reading them individually. So we have those specifically available to you. And that data that I alluded to earlier in regards to Grass Valley is also in this piece, and they do contribute back to that part with that assessment money, right? Other than that, I do want to thank you guys. You guys did a phenomenal job tonight. I think it's amazing. This will be our new standard in regards to live streaming our Recreation and Parks Commission meetings, in regards to following Robert's Rule of Order and holding true to an honest legislative process, providing our community an opportunity to share their opinion and keeping us accountable to what we're wanting to do moving forward. So I hope you guys enjoy this, but at the same time, this will definitely be what we'll do moving forward. With that, I have nothing else to add unless Mr. Lishman would like to. Do you have anything for your division update?
So do we want to move, so we'll close director update and then move back to 9 on division updates?
Yeah, thank
right?
you very much.
Okay, so we'll move back to 9, division updates, recreation update. Mr. Lishman?
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair. Since you guys approved the fishing derby, thank goodness, and I just want to let you guys know it's going to be on April 5th this year. It wasn't on my list, but since we talked about it, I figured I'd tell you it's going to be on April 5th.
Just flag us down next time, be like, you forgot something.
Our Recreation for Youth Fund, so since our last report, we had 6 requests in the amount of $407.25. We received $252 in donations, and our estimated balance is $11,476.52. And just to clarify, since Little League is here, and I think probably everybody on Little League is home watching this meeting tonight instead of the Dodger game, Unfortunately, you can't use this fund for Little League. You mentioned Little League, but it's only for city programs, so.
Oh, my apologies if I used the wrong
Just wanted to
example.
clarify that.
Thank you.
So pickleball's doing good. Since we opened the courts up, we've sold 225 keys. So that's great. Halloween's coming up. Sounds like we're going to keep it this year in October, on October 31st, so we're not going to move it to another month, so that's good. So that's coming up. We're all ready to go for that. We're going to have the trick-or-treating on Main Street. We're going to have DJ. We're going to have a costume contest that the 2030 Club sponsors. In here in this room, the Lions Club will be hosting a carnival, and there's going to be a bunch of games downtown, some bounce houses, face painter. It's going to be a good time, so that'll be on Halloween. Our next community cleanup day, which for those of you who don't know, it's basically a day to just get rid of trash, garbage, junk. And that's going to be here at the Mosquito Park and Ride, and it's going to be from 8 to noon. And you can bring anything but stuff like hazardous waste, no tires, no mattresses, no e-waste, but just regular good old trash you can bring, so. This Saturday, yep, it's going to be at the Mosquito Park and Ride. Our Gold Bug Park tour season is wrapping up. We're going to be finishing up our guided tours here this month, and then we'll be going into our modified schedule where we're only open on weekends from November 1st through the end of March. So it'll slow down a little bit out there, but it does get very cold out there. Softball ends on the 25th, weather permitting, and today was a great example of why we wanted to relook at doing the schedule and moving from 3 seasons to 2, because here we are in October and we've already got some rain days. So, but I think we're hopefully going to be okay, and we'll be finishing that up by the 25th. We're gearing up for youth basketball. We're taking signups right now. We just got into our first 5-on-5 adult basketball league that we haven't had in quite some time. I think the last one we had was in January, so we got 6 teams in that. So that's good news. And we have some of our Skyhawks youth sports camps that just started today. So it didn't rain hard enough today. We were able to still get them in out there. So that's it, unless there's any questions.
No, thank you. So we'll move to 9.2, Parks Update, none. 9.3, Facilities Update, we have none. And Special Events Update, we have none. And moving forward to 10, Requests for Future Agenda Items.
I'd like to request that we put on the future agenda items, maybe posting some rules at the pickleball court and having that type of discussion. I was out there with the pickleballers and saw a lot of confusion, and just think that we should have a discussion on what we could do to mitigate that confusion and just, the chaos it was creating while I was out there.
Okay. I guess for a future agenda item, I guess it would be a little bit of a question for staff. We had the public comment earlier for trying to do the Rotary Park and the big volunteer effort. It sounds like they've done a really good job organizing funds. So does that need to be formally approved? Do we need to, what would be the process? Does that need to be an agenda item?
I think it's best that we bring it back to you guys. I think they've done an amazing job, Christine.
Impressive.
Nancy Anthony here. To be quite frank with you, it's amazing. We
Yeah.
want to be able to support our organization as much as possible. And I think it'd also be a great opportunity for us to see the work that they're doing. And in all fairness, give them an opportunity to share and say thank you too. So we want to look at exactly what they want to talk to, and I'll work with them over the next month to try to put together something formal, and I'll write a staff report, and we'll have them be able to do a presentation. I think it's also an amazing opportunity to promote that, because we can't be building it in a vacuum. We also want to look for other individuals who want to kind of contribute and support as well. I'm sure that they would love other help. I mean, I'll go out there and I'll move some dirt around too. So it's advantageous of all of us to be able to include that in this process. We want to support them to the best of our ability.
Perfect. So I definitely want that on the agenda, however you decide to arrange that formally. And then I think the last component would just be let me look at my notes here. I got so many pages, my apologies.
You got fee waiver on there too?
Yeah, I was just going to say the fee waiver.
Oh, that's on there. I have that on the list.
Okay, perfect. So, and I realize that might take more than a month or so, but if at least we get started on
We
what
can start
and
with
how.
discussions. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's
I had one.
everything. Of course, yes, go ahead.
The hometown holiday on Main, just an update, if I can give that to the commission next meeting.
This is a great idea.
Does that work?
Yep.
Yeah, so you wanted on the future agenda to
I would like to.
provide an update?
Please.
Okay, sorry, I was trying to understand. Okay, yeah, that
So if
sounds
there's a
good.
general consensus, we would need a majority. I mean, you guys all seem, are you agreeable to? the
Yes,
topics?
for those topics, yeah. Is anybody not in favor of those topics? Okay, I'd say that's general
General consensus.
consensus.
We don't need to vote.
Yep. All right, and then we already covered the director update. 12 upcoming items. Do I need to read those,
No,
or?
they can read
just-
this for themselves.
What's that?
They, public can read it for themselves.
Okay.
No offense.
Oh, no, I just wasn't sure if we needed to or not. Thank you. Okay, so we have those itemized there for upcoming events, and then we're going to move forward with 13, which will be adjournment.
One more, I think. We have to add, I would think we should talk about the Monday and Wednesday move, or the Wednesday to Monday.
Oh, yeah,
Calendar? The calendar?
Oh, yeah.
It says adjournment to the 4th of November, which,
So I think we motioned to move it forward,
With the
but we
3rd.
needed to make some adjustments
Yeah.
on
So
some
the-
dates that were identified as holiday
Yeah.
challenges.
So we approved to move it to the third Monday. We just
right.
want to come up with a process in regards to what happens if.
If one of those days falls
Good
on a-
catch, yeah. I mean, that was
Okay.
amazing.
Yeah, I
so
think
we are
that's.
adjourning to the 4th then?
Yes.
Okay, all right. That is
No.
a Tuesday, isn't it?
So does that need to
No,
be?
the 5th.
November?
The 5th is a Tuesday,
Is it?
Yeah, it's oh, yeah, so,
election day.
yeah, November 4th.
Sorry, my fault. November 4th is a Monday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I have it on as a Monday, Monday, November 4th.
Yeah.
Oh, he's
Man,
looking
you're
at
so
the wrong
pro-
calendar.
you're
He's
so
on my
progressive,
progressive
guys.
calendar.
Look at you, bro.
There is such thing as time travel.
You got a flux capacitor over there or what?
Does that?
Yeah, I'm good with you guys. If we want to adjourn to the 4th, let's get a motion going. I'm on your side. I'm here for you.
Does the 4th, Monday the 4th?
Yeah.
Work for me.
Yeah, does that,
I won't be here on the 4th.
okay.
But
Did you want to participate via Zoom?
Dennis can speak on my behalf on that. The tree,
I'll be happy to serve.
Thank you.
However we can make it work. Yes, sir.
or Tony can as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. We just did it with city council.
Okay, so the
I think the
4th,
technical term was it wonky, but it worked.
so we can, so does that Monday the 4th work?
Yeah.
Does that work? Okay.
Yeah. May the 4th be with us. Is that it? Are we done?
We'll see. All right, we're good? You want to recommend?
I think we need to wait because we need to, I think the 4th is too early because that's the first Monday of the month, and here we are on the 3rd. We need to, some of the things we need to bring back to the November meeting have to do with minimum wage, and we cannot do it until the election takes place because the minimum wage is on the ballot. So we will probably need, it probably realistically should be the
Would the 18th, no, 11th is a holiday.
11th is
Yeah,
Veterans Day, yeah.
Would the
18th?
18th
the 18th,
work?
yeah. Which would be the third Monday of the month.
Which would be the third Monday. So I'm good with Monday, the 18th.
Motion, we adjourn to Monday, the 18th of November.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, seeing none.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.